Hello people, I'm going to try and show you how to build a freestyle quad or cinematic or whatever you want to use it for. The frame, motors, stack, receiver, buzzer and a GPS and your TPU parts, so everything to do with the quad except the expensive bit. Everything else that you can see there is around £100. So I'll show you what it consists of and then we'll start building the damn thing. Right, I've started building the frame, but this time the difference about it being, instead of a 5-inch, we're going to go for a 6-inch arms. Identical in every way except the arms are like 1 inch longer. But I started putting it together. I put the arms and the 2 bottom base plates on. You get the nice little washers that and also 2.5mm bolts rather than the 2mm bolts that you normally get with frames. The arms are just under 6mm thick, 5.8mm I think I measured them at. The front part is just under 3mm. And the same with the back part, it's about 2.5mm. So it's quite a solid frame, and it's got a nice little ring to it as well. So you know you can really whack these down as well. So there, yeah, that's the first bit done. All the other bits that you get with the frame, which is plenty of bits: 2 side plates, a top plate, rubber to stick on, a few little plaggy bits, but I don't think we'll be using them. Screws, 3mm screws, different various lengths. They're the button ones, and we've got the recess ones. Now we're not going to use these, but if you're using stuff like KISS stack, then these screws are perfect for, instead of those ones that we're putting in. I think that's a KISS stack orientated, that is. Those are. They're the normal standoffs that we'll be using, some of them. Top plate screws, and even got 2mm screws if you want to put your air unit in the back, screw your air unit down. So it's quite a comprehensive kit, frame kit, for and that's without the TPU type stuff, because I make my own anyway, and it's, you know, you can do it how you want to do it, but for definitely less than 15 quid, I'll put the link up anyway where we got it from. So that's the frame. So quickly put this away. So instead of these side plates that we're going to be using, and also the top plate that we've got to cut away, I'm going to be using this thing that I've printed off, which is TPU, so it's all sort of squishy and that, but it's proper solid, and they take some right good smacks. I've used the standoffs that you get with the pack, which literally slide in through there, and then on the bottom I've melted in 2 3mm nut certs in the TPU, and then that will sit nicely on there. Look, plenty of room in there as well, and because it's TPU, I don't know whether it helps the camera footage that you get and helps smooth things out and less vibrations, I don't know, but it seems to work alright. So that's what we'll be using. And then because you're not using the side plates, which ends up like being a train set, that front bit's going to be chopped off just in front of those 2 holes here, so it'll sit, that'll be gone. So we've got to grind that down on the wheel later on. So that's the frame. And then moving on to the motors, these for a set of 4 were 27 quid. Good solid thick walls. The magnets are not mega close together, but if you do get a bit of a dent in them, they're still going to spin alright, I reckon. That's what I've found anyway. Yeah, 27 quid. Good length of wire. 2mm screw rather than a circlip. Good thick wall on it. Really good thick wall. Magnets are pretty thick as well that way. And even the copper wires in, you know, it's not none of that skinny nasty stuff that can burn out dead easy. So for the money, happy days. Oh, that's the motors. The stack, again, same price as the motors, 27 quid. And you get a 405 flight controller with loads of pads that you can solder to, and you can also plug and play. There's a 5-volt pad on them, the battery pad, so you can get full voltage through there, and a 9-volt pad for your DJI. And the good thing about, I don't know, weird thing about this is that instead of having a 6 plug that you'd normally plug into your DJI, this has just got the 4 plug, so it's sort of like designed to use your own receiver. SD card slot for you if you want to use it for black boxing or whatever. USB-C as well, so it's not an old one. But yeah, we shall update that to the latest firmware on Betaflight before we even bother plugging it in, and we can do that on its own as is, and just literally plug it into and do the updates. If you know how to update Betaflight, then you know what I'm on about. If not, I'll show you. The ESC, I think it's just an 8-bit, 55 amp. Good solid, good copper on it. Yeah, nothing really much to say about that except it's going to get sent. In the bottom of the box you've got a big capacitor. I might change that for a smaller one I've got. XT60 with 12 gauge wire. Even got like some flight stack screws, which we're not going to use because we've already got ours in there, and various cables to plug things into, receiver, ESC to flight controller, and DJI as well in there. And you've even got 3mm nuts for the stacks again, so you'll end up with like spare bits. Rubbers, you don't get any spare of that, you need 8 of them, and we've got 8. So again, all that for 27 quid, and that's the brains of the quad. Five-flynder buzzer, again 10 quid. It's, in my opinion, it's a must-have, because you know, if you crash, especially in like long grass or in the weeds or whatever, and you've not got a buzzer, you can be there all bleeding day looking for it and still not find it. Receiver, we're going to use the ELRS Speedybee. We'll get all that soldered up and done. Dead easy to use ELRS nowadays. You know, you just basically like update it, put your password in, and as long as you wire them up put the wiring in the right order, RX to TX and vice versa, and set your UARTs in the right place, then there shouldn't be an issue. So that's that, and then we've got the HGLRC M10 GPS. That's probably one of the last things that we'll be putting on it. Might even test flight without that yet. And the main bit is like, you know, I'm going for the A4 Pro in this. But obviously you can use any, whatever you're using, VTX, even analog, you know, Walk Snail, HD0, etc. And even I've used the O4 Lite in a 5-inch quad, and it's just as good, mate. So if you want to like save money, you know, and in effect, like, you can have the whole quad for 200 quid, including this, you know, with the O4 Lite. You can't really get much better than that, can you? Not really. You know, and just the satisfaction that when you've actually put it all together and it flies and it don't go bang or nothing or catch fire, that's a, you know, you feel better in yourself rather than just buying one off the shelf and then it going bang. So yeah, let's start putting it together. Right, now we're going to put the motors on. Now unfortunately, the screws that came with the motors are not long enough to go through the arm, so I've had to source some M3 8mm long screws to put the motors in. So let's put them in. How I normally do it: grab a screw, stick it in the hole, line up the first one, nip it down, but don't do it too tight. Opposite hole, just a gentle nip. That's how some of these screws have like been used before or whatever, but it don't matter. Okay, just nip them all up. Don't go too mad, otherwise you'll strip. But you see, like, it's the thread's not come through, but it's used up most of the thread. So I'll show you on this one. Look, you grab one of these screws and see how much it's sticking through, which is enough to cop out the motor. You don't want like too much thread going through, because that can cause issues and fires and stuff. So and these that are printed off feet, we can fit them on. Like so. So now we've got the motors in. Okay, so we put the motors on, we put the feet on, and what we're going to do now is I put some double-sided tape on these tunnel things. I printed off, they're not the best ones, but they'll do the job. So what we do is get the wire, make sure it's straight, poke these through, like that. And we're going to I don't know, probably sit it somewhere in the middle, because we just don't want prop strikes really. So if we do something like that, take the backing off. Don't know where we can go. Yeah, because these I've printed off 5-inch arms, but these are 6-inch arms, so they're not quite long enough, but I'm too lazy to make some more. Okay, just repeat the process around sticking the arms on. So I do zip tie the feet first. Got grey zip ties because that's I've not got no pink ones. They always come on the opposite side of that, the lug, and then that gets pulled tight to that. It's almost like little stock bumpers as well, with a bit of extra protection feasibly. Apologies if it's doing things off camera and that, but okay. So yeah, clip all these. And I like to put me prop nuts on as well. Prop nut protectors rather. So at least you don't lose them. You shouldn't do. Okay, so now we've got that. Next job is the ESC. Before we put that on, let's get these rubbers. These are fairly easy to put in. You just sort of like bloody hell, find the gap there. Get them in situ and give them a little twizzle to make sure they're not fouled up or jammed up anyhow in the hole. See? And then the last one. Looks like we've got yellow rubbers, never mind. So be careful when you're putting this pin thing in. I like to put this in because, you know, if you've got standoffs and that, and then you're trying to do that, you could feasibly damage that and toast it. But you have, luckily with these, you have got solder pads if you ever destroy the plug and play jobby. So I like to make sure that's in situ first before we do any soldering. Now, there's a few bits that go put this together, we've got the back end, but then that wire's got to be fed through and then up into that. But this, I don't use 12 gauge because it's just too big and thick, and for, you know, for what we need it for. So I'm going to make my own XT60. I've got so many of these because I don't use them from the builds, even though there's nothing wrong with them. It's just that, you know, it's 12 gauge and I prefer 14 gauge, slightly thinner power wire. You'll be amazed how much weight you save just by going down, you know, a gauge, with no issues regarding like power supply or none of that palaver. Again, that 1000 UF 35 volt capacitor, I'm going to change that one as well. So okay, we're getting to the soldering sort of part now. What I use, which I found, like, apart from unless you want to buy Kester solder at 900 quid a gram or whatever it is, this TBS solder, 6337, 1.8 flux, 0.8mm diameter, along with a flux paste, which is really good to get nice shiny balls, she said. The good old quid's worth of blue tack, which I've had for years, going to last longer than I will. And then I've got this old thermopasty solder paste, dead cheap from Amazon or whatever. That's like if you want to clean out your, let's get this going. That's if you want to clean out the nozzle, soldering tip rather, bloody nozzle. Just some cotton pads will do. The temperature they'll do, I'll put this on full bore, and I've just got some manky old 5-cell thing that's about knackered. That's about ready for the bin, but this will do, you know, put a 6-cell pack on, a 4S, or you can get an adapter and use it on the, you know, a DC mains job. But, you know, just an old lipo pack does the job. It's at 450 degrees. It literally takes, I don't know, 10-15 seconds to get from room temperature to full bore, so it doesn't take long at all. So you can switch it on and off if you want. I'll find, I mean, just give this a bit of a clean, so it's not been used recently. So you can see the tip there. I'm not so bothered about how tarnished that is. I've had this a long while now. It's a secure, which is based around the TS100. They're about 40 quid, you know, and you got various tips that you use. I just use this pointed version, but yeah, they're really good. Old ashtray. I do smoke, never mind. Got some life vices. So anyway, I'll stick it on the table. Bit of blue tack, XT60. We're going to what we're going to do. Solder the XT60 to some wire, and then we're going to poke it through this, and then onto the ESC. Phone keeps going off its head. Right, the easiest way to do this, I find, is just roll it gently around like that to score the silicone, get the fingertips and just pull and twist. Okay, same with the other one. Just roll it on the blade, pull and twist, and then you can literally like just poke this in the blue tack for your spare pair of hands. So yeah, what I'll do is put a bit of flux on the bare wire that you just exposed, and then just touch it. Literally put some solder on the bottom and then from underneath just feed it in. Feel the, I mean, it doesn't take long at all. Trying to do it so you can see it. And then I lay a bed. I've already got like a lay a bed on there, and we know that's the negative. So to marry them up, I put like a little bed of solder down, put some of that flux in, take the black wire because we know it's a negative, and I clip the length that I need. That's plenty long enough. Sit that on top, and then just rest the iron on top of it. You'll feel it like boo, melting and pushing. Now you see if there's not enough solder there, we can do it again. Burnt the XT60 a little bit, but who cares, that's alright. Okay, repeat, turn it over. Little bed of solder on the bottom. Up. Again, I burnt that bit, never mind. I'm trying to show you the camera. We've already pre-tinned that. Snip it back to it. Just snip the end a bit. Little bit of flux. Which you'll see sort of melt away because it's still warm. Rest that on top. Hold the iron on the top like that. You see it go boo, sink and push. That's it. Let go. So that's your XT60 done. Now because it's, you can if you want put heat shrink on there if you want to, but the TPU in there is going to shield any like shorts from there, but you can do if you want, but I don't bother. So anyway, we've got good strong solder joint, and then we feed it through to this TPU back end that I've made. And see through there, pull the black through. Again the red, so it comes through like that. Push it through a bit, feed it. Sometimes it will get jammed there, look. And if it does get jammed, manipulate it so it doesn't want to jam up again. Okay. So now we've got both wires through the TPU thing we've made. That gets pressed down. We'll push it right down like that. I'll give the wires a good old pull just in case they don't come away, and we end up with something like that. And then that, let's tidy up a bit. We've also got the capacitor that we've changed from that fat one to a thinner one that does the same job. It's still 1000 UF 35 volt, exactly the same. Yeah, and I've just made some heat shrink it all together. Negative wire is always as shown. Most capacitors have got a band to show it's negative. If you know, if that comes in handy for people. So we'll have a tidy up and then go on to the soldering continuation. Okay. Soldering time of the ESC. Now people are a bit worried about these sort of things, but it's dead easy, honestly. So we'll it's always best to start with the smaller pads, the 12 motor pads. It's a clean tip, clean solder, no flux, no nothing, yeah. So what I do is just, because I've already like pre-tinned the tip. Now the first one, it will take a while for it to melt away the like a protective plastic that it's on the copper. And these ones are quite tough. But if you just keep like make sure there's plenty of solder on the tip, and literally like work your tip to sort of clean away or burn away that plastic coating that a lot of these pads have on them, you know, they've got them on from new. And repeat the other side. The board, the actual board itself, obviously will get warmer and warmer as you go along, but it's nothing major to worry about. And what it's doing is that because we're warming up the board throughout from doing these pads, okay. Now if you look down the side, you can see that some have got a bit more on than others. That one's got the most on, and maybe that one. So what I do, I'll clean my tip again, put enough on so there's almost like a little teardrop of solder, and then what we'll do is go bump, 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 bump. And you see that bit of solder just bounce up, that little ball just bounce onto the board. 1, 2, 3. And because you've got the temperature right up to 450, so there's that little ball, look. And it bounced off. Now if you look at that now, they're all pretty much uniform, and they're ready to take a wire now. So we'll do the same on the other side. This board's like just bearable to hold. So all we're doing now is just like filling up the pad and making sure each one is fairly uniform. It's got a similar amount on. Okay, see the ball come up there now. Ashtray is really good, not only for putting your fags out, but resting your soldering iron on there. So we'll look at that, and that looks more uniform. We've got some nice balls going on, and now that's quite hot now, but doesn't matter. We're gonna do the main pad. See, we'll start in the corner look, and then almost like squivel it across like that up. Bang! Same again. Now I've not used any flux, there's no, just the solder and the heat of the iron. We can, I know, lob a bit more on. You can fill it up a bit so it's prepped and ready, and that is a pre-soldered ESC ready to go. So the next job is to get the back end sorted. So I've got a couple of button screws, and what we're doing is putting these short standoffs in from out the pack, the frame pack that we got. You burn on your bloody finger again. So I've just finger tightened them up, and then the 3D printed thing that I've made, we can stick that on like so, and then that gives us a wire, the wire that we need to basically want to come up, over and down. And the reason why we want to put like a little bit of a loop in it like that is so we can get air units in the back. If we had it all pure flat and that, we're in trouble. So I normally like sort of measure it up a bit, so we know that we can get an air unit in there, but also the wire can go all the way round over the top of the air unit and not pull up the ESC as well. So what I do is cut that back to about there, okay, and then do just copy the red. Here is damn it. So hopefully when we go to stick them wires in, we've got enough height to get the air unit underneath. So now we've done that, need to prep these two wires so it goes on there, but also the capacitor that we made with some wire needs to go underneath like that, because the home for that will be somewhere around there. Okay, and then positive, negative, da, da, da. So we're going to solder all that together. So we know there's fairly the width of that pad. We want to cut that to a similar width. Give the wire a twist. Same with the other one. So you just got to roll it around with the blade, and that'll give you the desired length. Now what comes in handy with these, I've found, is I can pre-tin all that out the way, and also we know about this, but I do that after I've soldered the wires on. So we need this blagging on, so it's on 20 degrees, oops, it's 2021 in here. You can see how quick that jumps up, even with the shit battery I've got. So by the time we've put a little bit of flux on some bare wire, it seems to just, like, you know, soak the solder better in the wire rather than just sit on top of it if you put a bit of flux there. So again, wipe that clean, dump a bit of solder on, always touch the top, and then from underneath, quite a bit fed in, and you can sit it on the top and sink it down. So we've got plenty of solder on that one. Again, touch the top. There's a wire to warm up, and then off she goes up. See? You can see that flux bubbling away, doing its job. And keeping the solder nice and clean and shiny and all that palaver. So then we'll pop them back off. Bang bang. Now what we need to do is marry up these. What I'll do, I'll start with what I consider the furthest away. Move that back out of the way again. Okay. We know that's positive because hopefully it says positive there. We don't want to put any twist in the wire if we can help it, you know, so try and keep it rather than twisting it around or whatever. And then it's a case of just, what I do is touch and then wait. You'll see it sink. Don't like force the soldering iron onto it. Now see it's nearly got that now, so we'll just hit it again. Okay, now at the moment that's like, it's good enough, do you know what I mean, but I shall make it nicer once I put the positive wire on it. Make sure they're nice and free. Now we can put the positive wire on first, but I'm going to do the negative. Same again, repeat the process. A little bit of flux. And we'll clean that again. Lob some fresh solder on the tip. What I'll do is like do a normal touch. See how you got like a little ball there. Make sure that's straight and not twisted. And we want to come on it at that sort of angle. Again, just rest the soldering iron on top and let, and if you've got enough solder on the iron itself, that acts as a wick to help melt the rest. Okay, so we've got it in situ, but we've not melted it down yet. That's because I pulled the bloody wire out. But if you're working like a lower temperature, it's more difficult really, because you know you want it to sort of melt fairly quickly and not burn its way through. So because we're not, what I'll do now, you see it's got a bit of a slight bit of oxidisation on it, but not much. Again, I've cleaned the tip, filled that up with solder, and then we'll smack that down a bit more. Now we've actually got a decent temperature in the iron. We can solder that on. So now we know we've got enough room to fit the air unit underneath. And the next job now is to fix up this capacitor. Right, I want about that much length on it, so we'll get the clippery things and just go just past that there. I'll pull that off. I'll just get my nails, what's left of them, and pull, dig into the silicon wire with your nails to, you know, get a purchase of it, and then just literally hold both together and pull. Normally gives you a decent clean cut, saves messing about with blades or whatever if you can help it. So we've tinned that. And then what we want to do, I mean that's probably a little bit long wire wise. Again, we want to try not to expose any wire that's not soldered to a pad. So you don't want, like, you know, bare wire dangling out, because over time it might look alright at first, but then over time bare wires end up touching each other. So it's always best to try and keep them to the bare minimum if you can. So I'm going to put a bit of flux on there again. I'm going to give me tip of white down again. We're on 450, so I know we're right there. Give it a little teardrop type thing on your solder. Now, because my fingers are old and knackered, I mean you can hold it with tweezers, but what we're trying to do is melt that in, like that. Okay, and then just got to repeat the process on the negative side. We already know we've got the length of wire we need out, you see. So then it's just a case of getting the right length of wire for the other side. And then grab it whichever way you can. Put the pinch in. Wipe that down again. Might put that on the back actually as well. That's actually